You're being played, and he didn't even notice. As you read these words, someone is calculating how to deal with you, not in a conspiratorial or malicious way, but instinctively. Your boss is measuring how far he can push deadlines. Your partner is testing what behaviors you tolerate. Your friends are learning what favors they can ask for without reciprocating. What about you? You're teaching all of these people exactly how to treat it, motion by motion, response by response. The difference between who controls your life and who is controlled by it is not in intelligence, luck, or strength. It lies in something much simpler and devastatingly powerful: strategic awareness. Because there's a game going on right now, this second, and the only people who lose are the ones who don't know they're playing it. The good news? You're about to see the entire board. Right now, you're in a game. Not a game with controls or leaderboards, but one that you live every day. A game made of conversations, favors, eye contact, silence, tone, timing, excuses, expectations, forgiveness, and the invisible math behind human behavior. Whether you realize it or not, every interaction you have, who you trust, who you avoid, when you speak up, when you keep quiet, is part of a larger pattern of choices. And these choices don't just affect what happens in the moment. They shape the next moment, and the next, and the next. That's where game theory begins. Not with competition, but with awareness. Think of something as simple as dishes in the sink. A simple agreement between roommates turns into a pattern. One person fails once, the other lets it go. The next time, it fails again. You now face a decision not about crockery, but about strategy. Do you clean to keep the peace now, or leave it to protect justice later? You're not choosing between clean or dirty. You're choosing between cooperation or consequence. And your choice silently teaches the other person how to treat you in the future. That's the real game, not what is happening, but what your answer teaches. Game theory reveals the truth that most people never realize. The world is not shaped by what people do, but by how others respond. Someone can betray, take advantage of, ignore, or disrespect you, but only if they believe there will be no cost. One can remain loyal, generous, honest, and helpful, but only if one believes that cooperation is rewarded. In other words, the game is never just about the movement being made. It's about the future behavior that this movement creates. And here's the twist that takes almost everyone by surprise. You can't get outside. Even if you don't want drama, even if you just stay calm, even if you don't like confrontation, that in itself becomes a strategy, and other people play on top of it. No decision is yet a decision. Silence is a move. Tolerance is a sign. Ignoring something is still feedback. You're always teaching people how to treat you, even when you think you're letting it go. The question is not whether you are playing. The question is, are you playing consciously? Once you understand that each interaction is a mini-game with future repercussions, you stop acting randomly. You stop being shocked when someone repeats a behavior that you allowed. You stop trying to beat the moment and instead start shaping the pattern. And that's where the advantage begins. Because while 99% of people react emotionally and inconsistently, the 1% who know the game, who understand the long-term nature of cooperation, consequence, and trust, can outperform almost anyone without force, manipulation, or over-analysis. They win not because they are more aggressive, but because they see the board to which everyone else is blind. Then once you finally see the game, the next instinct is to try to beat it. That's where most people fall into the trap. They think that winning means getting the upper hand, proving dominance, outsmarting the other person, or making sure they never get taken advantage of. On paper, this seems logical. In fact, it almost always backfires. Not because the movement is wrong, but because the mindset is short-term. You can win a moment and lose the entire relationship. You can prove your point and destroy the confidence needed for the next 100 points that will never be scored. This is the paradox that most people never learn. The kind of win that feels good right away is often the kind that costs you the most in the long run. You've seen it before, the friend who wins all the arguments but gradually gets fewer friends. The business person who negotiates so hard that he gets the deal, but is never asked back. The partner who always needs to be right and then wonders why the relationship seems cold. They think they are winning. Strategically, they are bleeding future value. Game theory exposes why this happens. In a single round game, it may make sense to be selfish, defensive, or manipulative because you only care about one outcome. But in repeated games, which is what real life really is, that mentality destroys your advantage. When people see that you're willing to betray, exploit, blame, or dominate to get what you want, they stop cooperating. They stop giving the benefit of the doubt. They start playing defensively as well. And once both sides go into defensive mode, no one else wins. This is called a defection spiral, and it's where relationships, teams, and empires go to die. At the other extreme, you have the nice person who loses for a different reason. She doesn't want conflict, so she avoids consequences. She tries to fix everything by smoothing it out, absorbing the discomfort, or being the bigger person. But boundless generosity is not kindness. It is an invitation to be explored, and game theory confirms this. When a player cooperates unconditionally, defecting against them becomes the rational choice. Not because people are bad, but because the system rewards taking advantage of them. So you have two types of people who lose. The one who always fights and ends up isolated. The one who always forgives and ends up exhausted. Different strategy, same result. They lose because they don't understand what the real game is. The truth is simple. Winning is not about crushing others or avoiding conflict. It's about choosing a strategy that gives you the best result over time. The person who plays for ego loses to the person who plays for longevity. The person who plays for validation loses to the person who plays for structure. The person who tries to win each battle is always shocked when he ends up losing the war. And that's exactly why the strategy we're building, the one that outperforms 99% of people, isn't aggressive, passive, or manipulative. It is balanced. It's predictable. It's fair. It rewards cooperation, punishes betrayal, and restarts without holding a grudge. This strategy changed everything when it was discovered. And in the next section, you'll see exactly how she defeated the brightest minds in the world. So if winning the wrong way makes you lose, the obvious question becomes, what really works? Which strategy not only feels good in the moment, but consistently wins over time, no matter who you're dealing with? This is the question that a political scientist called Robert Axelrod wanted to answer. And instead of guessing, he did something brilliant. He turned life into a simulation. He invited the world's smartest strategists, mathematicians, economists, military analysts, psychologists, to build programs that would compete in a game of repeated interaction and prove which mindset wins in reality. Each expert came up with a theory. Some wrote programs based on disappointment, others used intimidation. Some tried randomness and unpredictability. Some came with long-term calculation models so complex they looked like something out of a Cold War intelligence lab. It was the intellectual Olympiad of strategy. If there was a genius move that could dominate cooperation and conflict, someone in that tournament would find it. But what won was not genius. It wasn't complicated, it wasn't manipulative, and it was definitely not aggressive. The winning strategy had only 4 lines of code, built on the same principle that a child could understand. Start friendly. Match any energy you receive and forgive when the other side resets. No mind games, no secret tricks, no first strike, just clarity, fairness, and immediate accountability. Here's how it worked. She always opened with cooperation. If the other player cooperated, he continued to cooperate. If the other player cheated, it instantly mirrored that betrayal, but only once. And if the other player returned to co-op, it would leave the past behind and start over. This simple loop destroyed strategies built on manipulation. He overcame strategies based on greed. He neutralized aggressive players, exposed fake cooperators, and effortlessly formed alliances with honest ones. Even more shocking, she never won by crushing anyone. She won by creating the most cooperation, avoiding long-term conflict, and punishing betrayal just enough to make people think twice before trying again. That's why experts were stunned. They assumed that the best way to win was to dominate. But the data showed the opposite. The strategy that wins the most is not the one that defeats others. It's the one that makes others want to cooperate with you. And the reason why she beat 99% of people is simple. Most people don't know how to balance trust with consequence. They are either too soft and are used, or too aggressive and are isolated. This strategy did neither. It rewarded goodwill, punished selfishness, and restarted the moment someone showed they wanted to try again. That's what changed everything. Because once you see that the winning movement in life is not manipulation or submission, but reciprocal clarity, you stop fighting for power and start building mutually beneficial systems. And that's how a strategy so simple that it could fit on a napkin ended up surpassing the brightest minds in the world. Now the question becomes, if a 4-line strategy can beat experts in a simulated world, what does it look like when you actually live it? Because the real power of this approach is not in theory. It's in how it works with real people, real emotions, and real consequences. And this is where most people finally recognize themselves in the story. Because you already know real-life versions of this strategy. You've met people who live it without ever having heard the words game theory. They are easy to trust, impossible to manipulate, and strangely respected by almost everyone around them. You can identify them instantly. They start out gentle, not faux-ly gentle, but genuinely open. They give respect first, instead of demanding it. They assume good intentions, instead of hunting for reasons to be offended. But the moment someone crosses a line, they don't burst, beg, or plead. They respond in equal proportion, no louder, no colder, just clear. And the moment you correct their behavior, they restart without dragging the past like a weapon. No grudges, no silent punishment, no emotional debt collection. Only, you cooperated, so I cooperate. You defected, so I defend. You corrected it. We move on. That's the real-time mirror strategy, and it works everywhere. Relationships, friendships, workplaces, negotiations, family systems, social circles, even online interactions. Why? Because it solves the biggest problem in human interaction: uncertainty. People do not fear kindness. They fear invisible limits. They fear being punished randomly. They fear someone who says it's okay when it's not. But when their responses are consistent and proportional, people really relax around them. They know what you reward, what you reject, and that you're not secretly storing resentment in a drawer labeled someday. Think of the opposite type of person. The one that is always pleasant, always calm, always well, until suddenly it explodes or disappears. She thinks she's avoiding conflict, but she's actually creating it later. Or the person who responds to everything with force, suspicion, or dominance. She thinks she's protecting herself, but she's actually teaching people to avoid her unless absolutely necessary. Both personalities lose, one because it never applies consequence, the other because it never allows forgiveness. But the reciprocal strategy, the equal response rule, builds something far more powerful than protection. It builds reputation, and reputation is currency in every game you play. When people see that you lead with cooperation but apply justice instantly, they don't test you in the same way. They don't lie to you in the same way. They don't try to use it in the same way, not out of fear but out of predictability. They know exactly what kind of game you're playing. And that makes you one of the rarest people in the world, someone worth cooperating with. Once you understand how the mirror strategy plays out in real life, something becomes obvious. The real advantage doesn't come from dominating people, intimidating them, or being too clever to be fooled. It comes from becoming the kind of person that people want to cooperate with. That's the real cheat code in the game. Not fear, not dominance, predictable justice. The world already has enough people trying to manipulate each other. What he doesn't have enough of is people who reward honesty, respond proportionately, and don't poison the future for a bad moment. Because here's the truth that most people don't realize until it's too late. Crushing someone is satisfying once, but gaining someone's trust pays forever. You don't have to be the most powerful person in the room when you're the one everyone would rather work with than against. This is what the reciprocity code teaches. Strength does not mean never being crossed. It means being someone who can't be crossed twice without cost, and someone who resets the moment respect returns. It's a completely different way to win. You stop wasting energy trying to control people and instead influence them through clarity. You don't have to force loyalty. You create conditions where loyalty makes sense. People know that if they deal fairly with you, they will be treated fairly in return. If they cheat on you, they lose access to this benefit. This is not weakness. This is structure, and structure wins in all versions of life. Business, leadership, marriage, friendship, nation building, anything. That's why the best strategy doesn't require genius IQ, manipulation, or emotional detachment. It just requires discipline. Discipline to start with goodwill. Discipline to respond to betrayal instantly rather than emotionally. Discipline to let go when the other person corrects themselves. Discipline to avoid revenge when justice is enough. Most people don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they react instead of operating with a code. Once you internalize this, you stop trying to beat people and start building cooperative ecosystems. Friendship groups where everyone evolves, business networks where trust builds up, relationships where respect is the default, not a negotiation. And this is the part that game theory reveals and that real life confirms. You don't go up pushing people down. You rise by becoming the person with whom cooperating becomes the smartest move. So here's the final truth that no one will tell you. You already have everything you need to win this game. It doesn't need more money, more charm, more connections, or more power. You only need three things. Start with respect, respond clearly, and forgive intelligently. These three rules, applied consistently, transform you from a piece on the board into someone who redraws the entire game. And when you finally internalize it, when you stop reacting and start operating, something extraordinary happens. The people around you change, not because you manipulated them, but because you created a system where cooperating with you is the most obvious and advantageous decision they can make. That is the real power, not to make people fear you, but to make them want to be on your side. And now that you see the game, the only question left is, will you continue to be played, or will you start playing consciously?